It's time for something a little bit different, something a little bit odd, and in this instance, something quite ginger. It's time. It's time for Polyhedron Collider Off Topic. It's time for Ramshackle Episode 1 with me, Rory Summers.
And me, Steve Tudor.
And in this episode, we're going to be talking about some books.
It's probably worth describing what on earth we're doing here today, isn't it, Rory? Because this is a little bit of an experiment.
Yes.
This came out of UK Games Expo, where we realised that over 169 episodes, we feel like we've really got the main podcast, Polyhedron Collider, down.
Yeah.
It's taken a while, but we've got a format, and like even today, we tried to actually record a little bit shorter than normal and came to exactly the 75 minutes that we always come to. It's now ingrained into us.
Yeah.
So a couple of things came up during Expo that suggested that maybe we do another podcast. Now, this is in the same feed, so if you're listening to Polyhedron Collider, it'll be in your feed, but it'll have different titles. So this is #Ramshackle, as it's called, and it's basically stuff that doesn't fit into the main format. So it could be off-topic talks like we're going to do today, or it could be interviews, guests. We're going to maybe go on some deep dives into some board games, or maybe the odd... because the internet does love a good listicle. Yeah. So we could have a couple of listicles, our top 10 worker
we're
placements
almost
or something
definitely
like
going to do some listicles, aren't we, at some point?
Yeah. We are at some point, definitely. But basically, it's a chance to just do something a bit more freeform and a bit more outside of the normal Polyhedron Collider. Now, I can't guarantee how often we're going to release this. I can't even guarantee how many of us will be on each episode. Like, today, we are going to talk about our favourite books and authors. Yeah. And, of course, Mr. Lewis and Mr. Gill have decided not to come along, mainly because Mr. Gill doesn't read anything above a Fisher-Price level. No. And Andy, well, yeah, we don't really want to talk about the kind of things he, inverted commas, reads.
Right, hang on. I have got a graphic novel on my list that I'm just going to cross off now.
Oh, no, he's talking about something very graphic.
Oh, right, okay. You mean that type of reads? Sorry.
Yes. Okay. I mean, read is definitely in inverted commas here.
So, let's start with, what are you reading at the moment? Before we get into anything else, let's talk about what we're reading. When I was writing this, I was surprised to learn that I'm reading, in kind of semi-inverted commas, I've got 3 books on the go at the moment, and then I realised I usually have about 3 books on the go at any given time. Yeah.
I can't cope with more than one book on the go. Same with TV programmes. I will watch like one TV programme, watch like an episode after each other, and then move on to a completely different show.
But you can't do multiple things.
And I'm saying with books, I can't read multiple books at the same time. He says with 2 books on this list.
With 2 books on this, but I've got the book I'm reading. Then I've got reading. Then I've got, because I use Audible quite a bit. And I love Audible, but I use that when I'm driving. So when I drive over to your place on a Monday, it's usually an Audible book. And when I drive anywhere really, it's without the kids, I'll stick Audible on. So I churn through a book that way. And then I've got the book that I'm reading to the kids, which, and as much as this isn't like, I'm not reading like kids' books because they're like 8 and 6. So I'm reading some, like, we did some of the Harry Potters, right? And that's with decent weight stuff, and some of the ones we're going to come to a bit later. But yeah, I always have at least 3 books on the go at any one point.
Okay.
Which I thought was quite confusing, actually. Yeah. I mean, they're all they're all very different. I've up until very
Well, I'm looking at this list. I mean, there's a certain name that comes up several times on this list.
Yeah, for both of us, yeah.
Yes. Go on, you start off then, because I can't talk about my book until you've talked about one of yours anyway.
Right. So the book I'm reading on Audible right now is Half a King by Joe Abercrombie, which is very good. I'm surprised to learn that this is his young adult series, because it is still very typically grimdark it just has no swearing in it. Or
yes, so
it has a lot less swearing in it.
To follow on from this, I'm currently about halfway through Half a War from Joe Abercrombie, which is the third book in the trilogy.
Right, okay.
So it's half a king, half the world, half a war.
Right.
Are the 3 books. So yes, I was quite surprised to find this was his young adult, not only because I was really enjoying it, but because, yeah, you're right, it, apart from swearing, it doesn't really pull any punches. It's quite a grim setting, and what happens to the main character in the first third of the book is not exactly peaches and roses, is it now?
No, I mean, I've just finished, because I don't know how many. Obviously, you've got the book, and then within the book, they've got kind of the sections, which they call Book 1, Book 2. I don't know how many books are part of Half a King, but I've just finished Book 1, and it's pretty dire. It's pretty hardcore.
I think they're all in 3 acts.
The three
acts.
Off the top of my head, yeah. The best way. But I've just finished The Devils from Joe Abercrombie. I finished that yesterday morning, so I love that. I really enjoyed. That's his brand new one that came out in May, and that's the one that you and I went to the book signing for. So I've got a hardback The Devils signed book by Joe Abercrombie, which says for Rory, and then his scribble, which is very nice, very cool.
So why don't we explain what The Devils is? I will come back to Half a King and Half a War.
The Devils is it's a fantasy quest type book. It goes back to if you read The Blade itself, it's that you've got a group of people that are on this quest. They're going to do this thing. They're going to go put this person on the throne of Troy. She's going to become the Empress of Troy, because this is in a fictional fantasy-esque version of Europe. So Troy didn't fall to the Greeks. The Trojans beat off the Greeks, and there's loads of other changes. The lay of the land of Europe is different because certain wars and certain things didn't happen. It's obviously it's still kind of that sword and sorcery, sandals. It's, the people are still going around in carriages and horses and stuff. Vampires.
You said sword and sandals. Then,
no, it's not sword and
carriages. Yeah. Okay. So what are we talking? Medieval?
Yeah, this medieval-esque period of Europe in a faux fantasy setting.
So we're not talking code and kind of sword and sandals.
No.
Right, okay.
Yeah, got it.
Yeah.
So you've got the church still exists, because the idea of the Devils is you've got the Devils are almost like a secret group. They're part of the 13th chapel of the Vatican. It's not called the Vatican because we did have a saviour, but it wasn't Jesus Christ. It was a woman, and she didn't die on a cross. She died on a wheel or a circle. It's hotly contested, and the Pope is this 11-year-old girl. And she's got in the basement of the Vatican City, she's got a dungeon full of devils, and those are the big beasties that she says when they have I think they call it the Chapel of Holy Expediency. When you need a problem doing and you need it dealt with quickly, you use the devils. So the devils come up. So you've got a werewolf, you've got a vampire, you've got a kind of jack of all trades, you've got a cursed knight, you've got a necromancer, and you have an invisible elf, and they all come together and they go off, and they don't like each other very much, and some of them do like each other, and they've got these great characters, and that's what Abercrombie does great. He has these characters that are really rich, that are really kind of visceral, that have flaws, and they have good stuff and bad stuff, and you like them and you don't like them all in equal measure, and they all clash into this mixing pot and go off on this ludicrous adventure. It feels like a bonkers RPG thing, that you can just imagine like the GM just going, and then this happens, and then this happens,
right, okay,
and then this, and you go, right, okay, we finally got through that mess. What's going to happen? And then this happens, and it just escalates and escalates and escalates, and it's got some nice twists in it. It's got some nice punches that it pulls. I just found it's back to what he does really, really well. It's great characters going on a great quest, lots of fun, lots of jokes. There were points where I just sat in a coffee shop just with my book and just reading it, and laughing out loud at some of the turns of phrases and how these people interact with each other. Wonderful book. Strongly recommend it.
You just weirdly reminded me of an interesting reading question.
Yeah.
When was the last time you read a book and it had a physical effect on you, either reading, laughing out loud, or something similar. Because I've got a really interesting one.
All right, I've got one book
Yeah.
where I'm not afraid to admit this on a podcast, where I cried like a baby.
Wow.
I cried like a baby, and I really struggled to get through like 6 pages. And I remember I was on a train home from London for work, and I just started crying, and I had to close the book, and because I was like, I'm in a shirt and tie, and I'm crying at a book, and I had to stop, put the book down, compose myself, and then go back and try and read again. And I got another page and a half through, and stopped again.
What book was that?
It was, and it's the type of person. It was Marley and Me.
Oh right, okay.
Which is the Owen Wilson, Jennifer, whatever her name is now, book about the guys who had a dog. Because I love dogs. I'm a big dog person. So for me, if you've seen the movie, right?
No, I've not actually. Right. So I don't know anything about it, to be fair. Right, but yeah, I can imagine if it's got a dog in it, the dog's going to die.
Dog's going to die.
Be sad.
And for me, it was really easy to put my feet in those shoes. And it wasn't Marley; it was my dog Sky, and it was really emotional for that. The other one I had again on the train, back when I used to commute for work. I was almost physically sick from reading it.
Wow, what was that one?
That was it? I think it was called The Haunted by Chuck Palahniuk, who did Fight Club. And this is a story about essentially some sexual deviants that all get together and get locked into this big house. And they're telling their stories about how they are, they're all essentially addicted to sex. And they're telling their stories about what they've done and how they've got to this point. And one of the little short stories in here, what makes my stomach churn, even now to think about it,
we probably shouldn't go any further due to, we don't want to lose our, don't get an E rating on Apple.
No, exactly. But it's those 2 books, crying and almost being physically sick.
So my most memorable reaction with that was like the second one, which was Hannibal. Which is, I think, the 3rd book in the Hannibal Lecter series.
Red Dragon is the first one, isn't it?
Red Dragon, then Silence of the Lambs, then Hannibal, then. So, yeah, I think it's the 3rd one. And I don't want... Well, I mean, there's a bit when Hannibal Lecter does a bit of cannibalism. But
really?
I mean, if you've not heard of Hannibal Lecter, this may come as a surprise to you, maybe a bit of a spoiler. But the way it was described as to what happened, and I think it's in the film version, but if for some reason in the film version it doesn't strike as much as it does in the book. And I quite literally had to just go. I was like, and I had to put the book down and go, look at pictures of puppies or something,
just to chill you out,
just to cleanse that thought from my brain.
No,
and weirdly, the only other reaction that I remember so strongly is actually Fellowship of the Ring.
Right.
And I mean, this is because everyone knows the story of Fellowship of the Ring. So spoilers for a what is it now, 100-year-old book and a 20-year-old film, but the whole Mounds of Moria chapter.
Yeah.
On Khazad-dûm, of course, at the very end of the chapter is when Gandalf falls down Khazad-dûm. I was so shocked I had to go back to the beginning of the chapter and reread it.
Really? Wow.
I was just like, that can't have happened. And I went right back to the very beginning of the chapter and made sure I hadn't missed some weird aspect as to why it happened. It was such a visceral chapter in the book.
Yeah.
And I had to, So... I just find them fascinating things, and sometimes they're very different reactions to watching TV or a film.
Yes,
when you do that, and I think because they're so big, they stick in the mind more. If that makes sense.
Yeah. They're a lot bigger because I think you spend a lot more time closer to those characters in a book, don't you? You are in their head, and they are, I suppose, in to a point, they are in yours. I heard a great thing once that I think it was Orson Scott Card who said this. I'm going to paraphrase it and butcher it massively. Is that the story you write is actually just the skeleton of the story, because the story that you read, you're putting flesh on those bones. So a writer just writes a skeleton, and then when you come along, you put on all your personal experiences and your knowledge onto these characters, into this world, to make it, that is your story. So the way you experience Lord of the Rings is different to the way I experience Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Because you put so much of yourself into that book, into that story, but you don't have that connection with a movie, because when you go into a movie, you're quite passive. Everything is just given to you, you know. But yeah, it was. I thought it was a great way of thinking about it.
Yeah. So to rewind back a bit, then the book I'm currently reading is Half a War by Joe Abercrombie.
Yeah.
As we've already said, it's a third of the trilogy, and it is his series of young adult novels, which means I think they're slightly shorter books than his first Law series of Books and the Devils.
Yeah.
But primarily, well, they're young adult novels because the main characters are like late teens.
Yeah.
And that's really about it. And as I said, there's no swearing. He doesn't pull his punches much else in those books.
No, he doesn't, no.
What's interesting about them, I think, which surprised me at first, is Half a King, which you're reading at the moment, is about a crippled king. And it is a bit of a spoiler, but this is very early on, gets betrayed and gets sold into slavery, and it's basically his journey from there and return to get his revenge and that kind of thing. Yeah. But the next story, the next book in the trilogy, swaps to a different character, and now that character becomes a secondary character.
Oh.
So now it goes to two characters, and the main character of the first book is a secondary character, and then when you get to the third book, it goes to two other characters, which are again, and because time is advancing, the story is always told from the point of view of these young adults, these late teens people. So it means that you're always seeing it from their point of view. That's always their view of the world.
That's a
and the people you know become secondary characters, and you still get to know what they're doing. Because I was watching a little bit disappointed at first that this main character, which I'd come to love in Half a King, becomes, a secondary person.
Yeah.
But they're in it enough for you to love them, but you then grow to love the new characters.
Yeah.
And I'm at that point with Half a War when I like one of the characters and I don't like one of the other characters. There's 2 point of view characters in there, and I'm hoping I like one of the characters by the end, but it'd be interesting to know if I don't like them. But I don't think that's going to happen in a Joe Abercrombie book. He's such a good character writer.
He's so good.
That will sort itself out.
Yeah, I think he does a wonderful job with his characters in giving them that duality. No character, using the Blade itself, that first Law series, you look at those Logan Nine Fingers or Major West or Glockter, and none of those are good guys, but none of them are bad guys either. And I remember there's a twist in, I don't even think it's in the first book, where one of the characters that I think you're rooting for them all. You like him. He's the one good guy. He's the one guy that doesn't over anybody else. And then all of a sudden, he turns out to be an utter arsehole. And you go, no, don't do that to me. He was the one nice person. But then you still love him anyway, despite the arsehole. Everybody, his characters are so three-dimensional. They're so real. They're so flawed.
Oh, but it's interesting actually. The Half a King, Half a World books, Shattered Sea trilogy. It's actually called. Sorry, some of those characters, and because then they are young adults, none of them are bad characters in the same way. Let's say Glockter is. None of them are arseholes. They haven't got to that level, because they're on the matured.
Path, though, aren't they?
Yeah, but because one of the characters is just a good guy through and through.
Yeah.
It's not like the later, the more adult Joe Abercrombie books, where it turns out they're an arsehole.
Yeah.
No, they are a good character through and through, and bizarrely, that's the way the rest of the people see that character affects it as well, which is interesting. I've now read the first Law trilogy. I'm about to finish the Shattered Sea trilogy. I've got, I think it's 4 more books in the first Law world.
You've got the 3 books from the Age of Madness. And then you've got 4 books that fill in the gaps between the 2 trilogies.
So I've got another 7 books to read from Joe Abercrombie, plus Devils, which has got another 8 books. Yeah. I could be careful I read something else, so I'm not just reading out Joe Abercrombie for the next 3 years.
I think you could quite easily do it, but I think the great thing about the trilogy is, and I wish more writers would do it almost, he's got the trilogy, and then the second trilogy, The Age of Madness, is 30 years after.
Okay.
So some of the characters that you meet in The Age of Madness are the children of the characters you met in the first trilogy.
Right.
And then some of them are still there, but they're much, much older. So their capacity and what they do has changed dramatically. Because in The Blade itself, so-and-so is 30 years old. There's a big difference to what they do when they're 60. But I think definitely need to read the ones in the middle as well.
Right, okay. Well, I'm going to read them all eventually. But the problem is he's writing them faster than I can read them at the moment. But not as fast as Brandon Sanderson, mind you, but that's a different matter. I am actually reading 2 books at the moment. I lied a little bit when I said I tend to read one book once. Now, this is very bizarre because this is just as much artwork as it is written word.
Right.
And it's a very unusual book, which is what's attracted me to it. What's what I like about it. It's a book called All Tomorrows, and I believe the author is C.M. Cosman. I probably pronounced that wrong.
Yeah, Cosman.
It's like, it's not a novel. There is some regarding of plot, but it's called All Tomorrows because it's about the future of humanity, and it starts off with describing how humanity basically reaches for the stars and expands and genetically modifies itself to travel further. But it then encounters this race called the Q, which are bizarre insect-like creatures which are masters of genetic manipulation and have a god complex and are insulted that humanity is spread amongst the stars. So basically rewrites humanity's DNA.
Wow.
And the rest of the book, this is like, it is a spoiler, but it's a spoiler for like the first 3 pages of the book.
Right, okay.
Because the rest of the book is then effectively cataloguing all the variants of humanity that the Q make.
Oh, okay.
And I say it's a weird book because it's just as much about the pictures as it is about the words. So every single species of creature has got a diagram of what they look like, and I believe he's the artist as well. And I understand that he's actually in the past. It is one called All Yesterdays, I think, in the past, which was a speculative fiction, similar kind of book, which is just cataloguing like imaginary creatures of our past. But that was done with an actual paleontologist, so everything was kind of realistic. That sounds
quite cool.
But they're very weird drawings, and they're very weird, but basically all these creatures are devolved forms of humanity, which the Q have done just to spite us.
Right.
And their stories about how they go. So it's weird. It's quite depressing in a way, because in a way it's cosmic horror that some alien comes along and just rewrites us. But not so much something you read. It's not something you burn through like a novel. It's something you flick through and appreciate.
It's like
slowly.
a coffee table book type of thing.
It would be, but it's far too freakish to put in the coffee table, quite frankly. And Amanda would find it scary, so yes. But weird side point. Do you have a coffee table book?
I don't have a coffee table book.
See, I have a coffee table book, mainly because it doesn't fit on any of our bookshelves. Is it a Star Wars book? Once. Yeah, it's a Star Wars book. Right. I saw this in London once, and it was something stupid. It was in like a really geeky shop in London, and it was something stupid, like £120. I looked at it and thought, oh, that looks nice, I'd love that. And then we went to, it wasn't the Works, but it was one of these like discount bookshops, and it was like 20 quid. Ooh. And it's called Star Wars The Blueprints.
Right.
And it is quite literally from the original trilogy,
all
the drawings they were using to make sets, models,
it's like the behind the scenes,
all that kind of things. Okay. Behind the scenes, so it is actually quite literally technical drawings of things like the Millennium Falcon, but not like technical drawings like what someone's done after the film. Yeah, but it was the like
that. It's not like crew. A Haze manual of the Millennium Falcon.
It's not like the fake Haze manual. It's the actual drawings that the production crew used to build sets, like to work out, like, all right, here's what the Millennium Falcon should look like, so there's where the set should go. You know, this is where we're going to put the tunnel. Here's where we're going to make the model of the bunker in Return of the Jedi, which they blow up. Well, you need several versions of that, because you need the model you're going to blow up, and you need a full-size version that Harrison Ford's going to stand in front of. Yeah. And you put so each one needs to look exactly the same. So here's the scale drawing of the bunker, which shows all the detail and how it should exactly look.
Wow. That's quite a cool coffee table book.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
That is pretty cool. Yeah, I'll allow it.
But you're right, it was a Star Wars one. It
No,
was a bit obvious, wasn't it?
I might have actually spotted it on your coffee table. I
Well,
don't know.
there we go then,
That's
yeah.
probably a problem. Insider knowledge there. So I wanted to ask for you, Mr. T, are there any books that you've read recently? Almost kind of going back to yours about your reactions. But are there any books you've read recently that you've been really impressed by or surprised by?
See, now you've made me look back through what I've read recently,
Yeah.
and unfortunately, it's been a lot more disappointments than surprises.
Oh, I've had a few disappointments as well.
God, I mean, let's be. You've got plenty you've been expressed by. You've put in these show notes. I'm going to mention a couple of my disappointments. So I decided to read Armada by Ernest Cline,
Okay.
who was the writer of Ready Player One.
Right.
And it is effectively. Do you remember the last Starfighter movie from the 80s?
Oh, Christ. Yeah, I haven't watched that since the late 80s.
It's very, very similar in that to plot.
Right.
It's about a chap who's been playing a video game, and it ends up the video game has been training for the US, worldwide military on how to fight wars using mechs and fighter jets, alien spaceship fighter jets. And then there's an alien attacking, and they've got to attack it. It sounded like a stupid premise, right? But I thought, I'm going to stick with this. And I'm not kidding. I got to the end and just went, that's what it was all about, was it?
Is that not kind of like the same as Ender's Game?
It's got some... Right, Ender's Game is actually really quite clever.
Yeah.
And it has this dual story about Earth politics, and then, about using child soldiers, and, there's this really... And so I'm not going to explain the ending, but when the ending comes, you kind of go...
Oh, yeah, no.
Yeah, the ending for this comes, and you go, what? Really? Oh.
I was so disappointed by the movie for Ender's Game.
Yeah, well, I think that was one of those books I don't think you can make a decent adaptation of.
No, I agree.
There's something weird about that book which I don't think you can adapt.
No, I can't believe he was 18 when he wrote that.
Really?
Yeah, he was really young when he wrote Ender's Game.
Oh, wow, okay.
And went on to write
Didn't know
about
that.
9 of them or so in the series.
I've only read the first one.
Yeah,
so
I've only read the
rest of
first
them
one.
yeah.
And it was good. I just never really wanted to go and explore the rest of the world. I thought it was enough for me.
Yeah, it felt like that's it. Being in, that was being middle and end. That was the story. Don't need much else. Yeah. So, and maybe it's some of the later ones are better. Who knows? I don't care.
Yeah, exactly. They're there.
Go on then. So, what have you read that's impressed you?
I'm going to jump into one of the books I read for the kids, and I actually recommended it to you because I enjoyed this book so much. Reading it, and I almost bought it. I think I saw it just on Google, was recommending it because it won lots of awards when it came out. It was Impossible Creatures by Catherine Rundell. So British author, and this book it's kind of like that Lion, the Witch in the Wardrobe, Wizard of Oz. A child from, or I'd say a mid-teen boy from our world, slips into this fantastical world. And he goes to the archipelago, or the archipelago, or whatever, however you want to pronounce it. And this series of islands, that's where all the impossible creatures that we thought were all myth all exist. And they have a whole community and a whole governance. And he comes across, and he meets Mal, a girl who has got like a flying coat. And it's also, and they end up going on this great adventure because there's a darkness spreading through the world, and magic is slowly starting to fail. And when it does, the walls that keep the archipelago safe from the rest of the world will finally diminish, will fall, and then all the mythical creatures will be able to escape if they can survive. But it's causing lots of death and destruction. So she wants to go and solve the problem, and he gets dragged along for the ride. And she's got this little pet griffin, Gellifen, who is like the first griffin born for like 20 years or so. It's really rare and really cool. And they go off and they have this adventure. And again, it's another kind of little quest. And it was wonderful. And the reason it was so good, it was a really straightforward fantasy adventure story, just like the Joe Abercrombie we mentioned earlier. But the writing was so rich. Now, obviously, I'm reading this to my children, so I'm a fairly good orator. reading, and I like to do different voices for all the different characters. But reading this, it was just like drizzling honey on your crumpet. It was so easy to read out loud. Just like I've done the Harry Potters, I did the BFG, I did some of the classics, and then to come to this, and having never read it before, having had no kind of knowledge of any of the characters were so rich, but I could tell who was talking, which voice to put on before it said Night Hand said or so-and-so said or anything. I knew who was talking because the conversation, everything was just so dynamic and so easy to kind of key into. It flowed, and there were points where you get to and try and write, right, we're just going to read one chapter tonight. And you get to the chapter, it's a cliffhanger, and both the kids are still wide awake. No, you can't finish now. You need to read the next one. I was like, bloody good job. I want to find out what happens next as well. It was a really compelling read and really fun, and the children, there were points in it where they were laughing out loud. There were points where they were scared. There were points where they were excited, and the points where they were really sad and really nervous about what was going to come next. They had that whole gamut of emotions, which maybe children are more susceptible to. But they had that when I read Impossible Creatures. They didn't have that when I read Harry Potter. They haven't had that when I've been reading the Skandar series, and they're enjoying it, but they haven't had the same emotional range and response as they did to Impossible Creatures. And I think it's a fantastic book. Again, young adult, but if you're going on holiday soon and you just want something you can just enjoy and just consume while you're sitting by the pool sunning yourself, Impossible Creatures is an absolute brilliant book. It's such good fun.
Interesting. Not normally. I normally pick up. I've read the first Harry Potter.
Yeah.
My wife listens to Harry Potter on Audible. She uses it to help her sleep. So
That's
through osmosis, through osmosis, I have actually listened to, I think, all of Harry Potter, just not in order from start to end.
What Rowling did for introducing people to reading and making reading cool again for kids was great. But those books are tosh. Like the first three are just nonsense. And the fourth is just nothing, but it feels like homework. Right? And then like 5, 6, and 7 are all right. So there's a lot of work to get to. All right, these are.
Yeah. I said I've only read the first one, so yeah, I can't really comment. But yes, Harry on Camping is... it's a trudge.
It is.
Just listen to it secondhand on Audible. It's like, oh my God, they're in a tent still.
Yes, they do spend a lot of time in a tent. Oh dear, yeah. Where's that?
So what's next? What are you reading next, Rory?
Next, I think I'm currently reading Red Rising by Pierce Brown, which is his colour series.
Now, I read nearly everything on Kindle these days, apart from something I'm going to mention in a few minutes. And I think I bought this on Kindle about 3 years ago and still haven't got around to it.
Yeah. See, I was in Waterstones the other day, and they had they've just released the 10th anniversary edition of Red Rising, and they did that really great thing that I wish more shops would. I wish board game shops would do it, but someone's done a little handwritten scroll about this book.
Oh, the Waterstones thing, yeah.
I just like, why don't board game shops do that? Why don't they do that and just put it next to the game, just so you can get, like, someone has taken the time to handwrite this and tell you about the game. But yeah, someone had this handwritten.
You say that Waterstones, I think, do occasionally do that for a board game of the month.
They do one board game a month. Yeah.
Yeah. So they did do it.
They do.
It's not common.
Yeah, I want board game shops to do it, and I just want like 2 sentences about why I should like this game. But yeah, so I picked the Red Rising up, and then I read the blurb on the back, and then read the inside cover, and I was like, that sounds quite cool, actually. So I'll pick that up. And I don't normally read sci-fi, so I thought I'll change pace a little bit and read some sci-fi, because it's all set on Mars, and I'll see how it's going. But next, I'm not planning to read the whole series. I'm planning to just read Red Rising for now, and then I'm moving on to the Poppy War trilogy by R.F. Kuang.
Okay.
And that's because not long ago, I finished Babel, or The Necessity of Violence by R.F. Kuang. And that blew my socks off. It was a really clever book that obviously required a lot of work. So it's set in an alternative Victorian Oxford, England.
Right.
Where kids really, or young men and women, are going to Oxford University to study in the Tower of Babel to learn about translation, because the magic system in this book is fantastic. You inscribe words on silver bars, and you inscribe on one side of the silver bar, you'd put the English word or a French word, and then on the opposite side, you'd put the German word or a Chinese word or a Sanskrit word. And the bit that gets lost in translation powers the silver bar, and magic happens. So it talks about like the etymology of words and where they come from and how they diverge and how they separate. So they've got like carriages that run faster because they've got silver inlaid in the wheels, which allow them to run without a horse because of the difference between this word and this word, that both mean move, but they both mean slightly different versions of move, which forces the wheel to just continually run, which means you don't need a horse, so you have a horseless carriage because it's got silver powered. It's fantastic, and it was really, really well written, really clever. And The Poppy War, which is the name of the first book, was her first book, which I want to move into next. I think she won lots of awards for it, the Hugo among them. So that's what that's my next one. And then when it comes out, Impossible Creatures 2 for the kids. For the kids.
For the kids. I did have this lofty aim,
right,
of rereading all the Terry Pratchett books.
You did mention this, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't get very far. Because I kind of want to revisit them, because some of them I haven't read in 30 years. Yeah. So I kind of wanted to go back to them, and I reread Colour of Magic recently, and I found it hard work, because I think Terry Pratchett's writing gets much better after about 5 or 6 books.
Yeah.
So I still want to do that. So I still want to go back, which means I think I can't remember the next book is, but at some point I will go back and retread all them.
Yeah.
Because I do want to read them in order, because what's happened in the past, I've just read them randomly when I came across them.
Yeah.
I think like in my early 20s I was buying them second hand from charity shops, that kind of thing. So it was just random what I got. So I do kind of want to go and witness that kind of movement. Second, now that the Wheel of Time TV programme has been cancelled...
Yes, you're very disappointed by this, aren't you? You've been trying to get me to watch that for months.
I'm one of the few people, me and my wife, really enjoyed the Wheel of Time TV series on Amazon. I know we appear to be in the minority, because obviously there wasn't enough viewers, so they decided to cancel it. I didn't know what the original source material was. And I said I wasn't going to read it after the whole Game of Thrones debacle. Well, no, the Game of Thrones debacle, which it sounds like the same debacle, annoyingly. The Game of Thrones debacle was I was reading Game of Thrones at the same time. Well, I was reading Song of Ice and Fire, I should say. At the same time, I was watching similar series of events happening. Yeah. And I realised at one point I couldn't remember whether I'd read it or whether it happened. Yeah. So I'm going like, hang on, have they cut something here, or did that happen in the book, or did that happen in the TV series? I can't remember. So it wasn't the debacle about no ending. It was debacle about different debacle. Trying to read. Yeah. So I always said I'm not going to read Wheel of Time until the TV programme's finished, so that doesn't happen. But now the TV programme has ended, I might as well go start reading Wheel of Time. Now, I've heard very mixed things. I've heard overall the story's good, but I've heard there are several points where you've really got to just trudge through it.
I loved the Wheel of Time series. I remember I fell into it and I read books. I've got 1, 2, and 3. And I finished it on my train home, finished book 3 on my train home, and went straight into town to Waterstones. And they didn't have book 4. They'd sold it because they had them all. Obviously, they only keep one copy in. And I was like, have you got book 4? And he's like, no, someone bought it earlier today. It's not going to be in until Friday. And it was like Monday. I was like, what the fuck am I going to read all week on the train? Because this is the point I was doing about more or less best part of 2 hours on the train every day. So I was like, well, if you're enjoying that, why didn't you try Brandon Sanderson, because he's the guy who finished the series. And I was like, all right, I'll give that. And I was like, okay, and then what's the Final Empire? And he said, yeah, Final Empire, give that a go. It's quite good. And then I was like, okay, I'll give that a go. I never went back to finish the Wheel of Time.
Wow,
and that's how I found.
That's how you found Final Empire.
Yeah,
which is a spectacular book, I think.
Absolutely
I think
brilliant.
that trilogy. I was actually thinking the other day, because I said I read via Kindle.
Yeah.
So I get messages via Amazon about their Kindle deal of the day. And the Final Empire is like is a trilogy, but then there's a second trilogy set in the same world, but like 500 years later.
It's the Wax and Wane. Yeah, I forget what it's got. It's got a cool name. I
can tell you most of what happens in the original Final Empire trilogy. I looked at these books and went, ooh, there's new books. And I went to the Kindle page and it says, you've already bought this book. Then I looked at my Goodreads account. I'd actually already read it. The second trilogy had such a crap impression on me.
Really?
I'd completely forgotten I'd bought them and read them.
So I never finished the second trilogy.
Well, I don't think you're missing anything, because I can't tell you a single thing that happened in it.
Okay.
I can't remember a single detail at all.
Really?
Yeah. All I know is it's like a Western, and they've got six shooters.
It's Westerns, yeah.
And that's all I remember.
Yeah.
I don't remember a single character, whereas I can't remember the names off the top of my head, but with the Mistborn, I can remember major plot points. I can remember how the magic worked. I can remember, what happens at the end of each book.
Because Alloy of Law was the first one in that, then a 4-book series. If I recall correctly, because I used to read the blogs and the journals of my favourite authors, and the original plan was that Alloy of Law was meant to be a stopgap, so it was going to be Sword and Sandals for the first trilogy, then it was going to jump to like the Industrial Revolution kind of Victorian period, and then Alloy of Law was meant to just sit in the middle, and then the next trilogy, the third and final trilogy, was meant to be the Mistborn world, but in the modern era. Right. So with cars and mobile phones and computers, but still have people with the Mistborn, pheromancy, and I forget the other name of it now. They will all still exist, but the powers would obviously get weaker as time went on, and you'd find new ways to use them that would interact differently in a modern world. That was the original plan. And I don't know if it's ever going to happen now, because
it seems to have
just dropped off, because it's Stormlight Archive, isn't it now? It's all about that.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah. Which I'm still unsure about. I've read 3, or I can't remember if I've read 3 or 4 of the Stormlight Archive.
Is it book 4 or book 5 that came out last year? It came out in December. I know I pre-ordered it, and I know it got delivered to my Kindle, but I can't remember which one it is.
I can't remember, and I'm still not convinced whether I think they're a good read or not.
Same here. They felt like a lot of hard work. I find them quite verbose.
Yeah.
Unnecessarily slow. It's just unnecessarily slow.
I own the first 4. I don't think I've read the first 4. So I don't think I've read Rhythm of War. I don't think.
Yeah, I've definitely done that one.
No, definitely haven't read that one, because I bought it 6 months ago and I haven't read it in the last 6 months. Right. So, yeah. So I will quickly talk about one book which I've actually bought physically, because I can't find it on Kindle. Right. It's actually an older book. So you may know that I'm into my H.P. Lovecraft and Cthulhu.
I knew that about you, actually. I did know that.
Oh, okay. Well, I, of course, have read the complete Cthulhu mythos works of H.P. Lovecraft. Right. I've got a volume. I've got a Kindle version which has got absolutely everything in there, and I've got a couple of books which have got scattered versions. But I was preparing some RPG stuff for actually a game called Delta Green. Right, yeah,
familiar with Delta Green, yeah.
So for those that don't know, Delta Green is a modern version of like the Call of Cthulhu kind of game, where you're a bunch of government agents, secret government agents, who've been activated and have to basically stop the Cthulhu mythos. So unlike Call of Cthulhu, where you're a bunch of randoms that get thrown together, here is you are supposed to be like the CIA, X-Files, Fringe, that kind of thing. trying to battle the Eldritch horrors. And I realised that I wanted to read about Glarkey. So if you've played an Arkham Horror game or Call of Cthulhu, Glarkey is one of the great old ones that is in the UK.
Right.
Basically, I was after The Inhabitants in the Lake, which is the Glarkey story, because it appears in lots of Call of Cthulhu adventures. And so I picked up The Inhabitants in the Lake and Other Tenants. So not other stories, other tenants.
Very ominous.
Which is a collection of Ramsey Campbell's horror stories.
Okay.
Basically, because he's one of the ones that expands the Cthulhu mythos. After, I think they were all written in the 60s and 70s, I think. So quite a few years after. Quite a few years after Lovecraft had died.
Are they considered like official canon?
Yes.
He says with absolute authority.
Basically, as far as I understand it, Lovecraft would write to various people, such as, I'm forgetting the name, who's the guy who wrote Conan?
Conan Doyle? No.
Conan Doyle wrote Conan the Barbarian.
Yeah, true story. Who wrote Conan? He wrote
Robert E. Howard.
Yeah.
Robert E. Howard. So they were written about the same time, and I believe, if I remember this correctly, H.P. Lovecraft and Robert E. Howard would send letters to each other. And what they used to do is they used to borrow ideas. So Cthulhu gods ended up in some Conan stories. Conan baddies turned up in some Cthulhu stories, and basically lots of people then took that and expanded it on. And there's the Call of Cthulhu kind of RPG kind of said, right, this lot of books is what we based the RPG on,
right?
Which is the expanded Cthulhu mythos of various people, which includes Ramsey Campbell.
Yeah.
So in that regard, it's considered, and what happened was, when you think of the board games, so Arkham Horror, originally Arkham Horror or Arkham Horror 2nd Edition was released as a Call of Cthulhu board game. It's actually got that written on it, so all the gods in that were based on what was in Call of Cthulhu, which is based in those books. So there is a kind of, as you said, like an unofficial canon.
You've got an ECM, haven't you, really, haven't you? Yeah, the expanded Cthulhu mythos.
Yeah.
Not too dissimilar to the Marvel universe.
Yeah. Not far off, yeah.
Nice idea.
But yeah, I gone down too much of a rabbit hole there, and
that's the whole point of Ramshackle, though, isn't it, Steve? Well, that is the whole point. It's just, it allows us to just chat and geek out a bit and share our geekiness with you, dear listener. And I would love it if you, dear listener, would like to share your geekiness with us. Specifically in context about any books, anything you've read that you want us to tell about. If you want to join in the conversation about how great Joe Abercrombie is, or what I've got to look forward to in the Poppy Wars.
Yeah, or whether I should actually read Wheel of Time.
You'd struggle. I think if you're going to read the missing Joe Abercrombie books and the Wheel of Times, that's your library. That's your reading done for the next 3-5 years.
I think more than that.
Maybe more than that, yeah. That's fair.
Yeah. And then there's all the other ones I've purchased that I haven't got round to. Yes. So do you want to do the outro?
You do the outro, because I've never done an outro and I didn't write a script for it.
Yeah. Oh, you don't need a script, Rory. You should have learnt this off by heart.
No, because I just got to phase out now.
This has been #Ramshackle. As I said, it's a bit of an experiment. We'll see how it goes. It won't just be books. It will be board game stuff. It will be guests. It'll be whatever takes our fancy week to week. The launch schedule is unknown either. It might be between every episode. There might be 2 sometimes. There might not. We'll see what happens and see how it goes.
I might not even be here all the time. Steve might not be here all the time.
I might be. We might actually do a podcast episode where I'm not here.
That's going to be so. Do you know what I'm excited for? I'm excited to find out what the theme music you're going to put over the top of this.
Oh, God, I've got to think of that, haven't I? Anyway, this is part of the main Polyhedron Collider theme, so the usual Polyhedron Collider blurb at the end. Go review us on your podcast platform of choice.
Yes.
Go check us out on the social medias. You can find us all over the place. There will also be a link to our Discord server where we'd like to hear about your favourite books, what you're reading at the moment. But until next time, I need a new sign-off. I can't say happy gaming. That's a gaming.
Yeah. Can you not?
Until next time, long live the ramshackle.
Long live the ramshackle. That should be that. Can you make some noise for me, Mr. T?
Hello, hello, hello. I'm eating my mouthful. I have peanut butter on toast. Is that better?
Legendary. No, that's great.